Office workers are built different. Early morning, Monday, the subway station already looks like an NPC spawn point. And right in the middle of it, our protagonist is walking half dead with sleep deprivation, wondering what kind of forbidden food office workers eat to stay alive this early in the morning. It's been 2 whole months since he started this salaryman life, and bro still hasn't adapted. Then cigarette smoke suddenly fills the air. A middle-aged guy nearby instantly gets annoyed, complaining about people smoking this early in the morning like his lungs personally pay taxes for the country. Meanwhile, the protagonist is still too sleepy to care. A little ahead, 3 crypto goblins are causing chaos near the station entrance. One yellow-haired dude is laughing while staring at his phone. Beside him, a chubby guy looks seconds away from cardiac arrest because his coin account is down 40%. Another skinny guy starts roasting him, saying not even Warren Buffett's ancestors could save that portfolio anymore. The fat guy instantly gets defensive, screaming that you only lose money if you sell. Yeah bro, and Titanic only sinks if it touches water. The skinny dude keeps cooking him, saying even if he sells right now, the remaining money barely equals one office worker's monthly salary. That line hits the chubby guy harder than inflation. He immediately starts yelling back, asking what kind of third world mindset that even is. Watching this circus, the protagonist gets irritated, right at the station entrance too. These unemployed Avengers are acting like the whole place belongs to them. He thinks that if he were 5 years younger, this situation would have ended very differently. Crypto really destroyed an entire generation. Landscapes may change in 10 years, but idiots like these somehow survive every era. Still, he decides to ignore them. That's the police department's side quest, not his. But then, an old security guard slowly walks over and politely asks them to move somewhere else because the smoke is drifting into the nearby building. Completely normal request, right? Too bad these dudes share one collective brain cell. The yellow-haired guy starts laughing, saying the old man basically told them to get lost. The skinny guy joins in like a background NPC laugh track. Then the chubby guy completely loses it. He grabs the old guard by the collar and starts screaming at him, asking if he thinks he's important just because he's wearing a security uniform. The old man panics and tries explaining he didn't mean anything bad, but the guy keeps yelling, asking if that pathetic salary is supposed to fix his stress and crypto losses. Meanwhile, yellow hair pulls out his phone and starts recording. Of course he does. Bro saw harassment and thought, potential YouTube Shorts content. Everyone nearby just walks past pretending they can't see anything. Peak NPC behavior. And then, right in the middle of the recording, somebody suddenly steps into frame. The protagonist. With the most exhausted face imaginable, he casually asks if they're filming something interesting. Then he says he's from the Manhua pirates and he can't allow injustice like this to happen. And obviously the viewers should like and comment too. That interruption catches them completely off guard. Yellow hair says he almost got scared, while the skinny guy wonders where this random office NPC even came from. The protagonist slowly stares at them, with cold eyes. Beside them, both the old guard and the fat guy look over as the protagonist starts lecturing them about respecting elders, treating people properly, and most importantly remembering to support the video they're watching. Hearing that tone, the 2 troublemakers instantly fold. Bro switched from salaryman to final boss in 1 sentence. They immediately apologize and say they understand. But the chubby guy still hasn't read the room. He starts yelling at his own friends, asking why they're bowing to some lowly office worker. His friends panic instantly. They tell him to shut up because he's about to get everyone killed. One even compares him to Epstein's lost child because of how suicidal he's acting. At that moment, the protagonist's expression changes. He calmly starts listing his salary. Before tax, after deductions, exact monthly amount, full corporate suffering statistics. The chubby guy laughs and calls it pocket change. Bad move. The protagonist slowly walks closer and says there are people who wake up before sunrise and work endlessly just to earn that amount honestly. The fat guy arrogantly replies that he makes that in a week. And the moment he says that, the protagonist grabs his face. With pure rage in his voice, he says that even if the numbers are identical, money earned without effort will never have the same value. Then he slams him directly into the ground. Absolute system shutdown. Yellow hair watches in horror, realizing there's no way he's mistaken. Even if the appearance changed, this monster is definitely the same person from back then. The protagonist crouches beside the guy and calmly explains that he didn't attack him for insulting his salary. He attacked him for disrespecting labor itself. The guy instantly apologizes, and that's when the narration finally reveals the truth. 10 years ago, when he was only 18 years old, this man conquered the entire underworld and stood at the absolute peak of violence. People called him the legend. Back in the present, the protagonist notices bloodstains on his shirt and gets annoyed because he literally washed it yesterday. Bro is less worried about assault charges than laundry expenses. Nearby, yellow hair is still confused why somebody this terrifying is working as an office employee instead of ruling a gang empire. Then suddenly, the protagonist appears right in front of him. Instant transmission. The guy freezes completely. The protagonist calmly says his shirt looks clean. Yeah, because he's stealing it. At this distance, yellow hair is so terrified he's about to uninstall life manually. Next scene, they're riding a bike together. Yellow hair is now shirtless while the protagonist sits behind him wearing the Gucci shirt he definitely did not obtain legally. The writer nervously asks why someone once known as a legend became an office worker. The protagonist replies that titles like legend are meaningless childish memories. As people grow older, they realize true strength belongs to those who quietly wake up every day and continue working honestly no matter how exhausting life becomes. Those people are the truly strong ones. For a moment, he even smiles and tells the guy not to waste his life with regrets the way he did. The writer casually replies that honestly, he's already pretty satisfied with life because his monthly salary is around 6 million won. And for the first time in this entire chapter, the protagonist is genuinely shocked. Bro just realized this random NPC earns 3 times more than him. Immediately, he tries acting cool and says he'll make good use of the shirt. The writer panics and explains it's limited edition Gucci, but the protagonist cuts him off. They're late for work. Drive faster. Next scene, a gigantic corporate building appears on screen. Samjin Group, ranked 30th in the entire Korean business world. Construction, heavy industry, leisure, massive money, massive influence. The kind of company that smiles politely in commercials while secretly grinding thousands of employees into emotional powder behind the scenes. But like every giant Korean holding company, behind the glamorous flagship businesses, there's always one department doing the dirty work at the bottom of the food chain. And carrying the Samjin name like an unpaid stepchild was Samjin Trading Company. A place so shamelessly profit-hungry, they'd probably sell expired dog food to stray dogs if the margins looked good enough. Inside the office, our protagonist is currently getting cooked alive by his manager. The manager slams a file onto the desk and stares at him like he personally caused the global recession. Employee Kwan, are you trying to play house with me or something? Kwan immediately tries explaining himself. Manager, that's not what but the manager cuts him off instantly. Then, what exactly are you doing right now? Everybody in the office quietly lowers their heads. Classic corporate survival instinct. Never make eye contact with an angry manager. That's how side quests start. The manager grabs the report and starts reading it out loud with pure disappointment. I told you to list unique places to buy used motorbikes. Then he squints at the paper. Dengi Market? Bengai Market? Bro sounds 1 second away from reporting these locations to the CDC. Kwan calmly replies that technically, they are unique places. But the manager interrupts him again. Do you think this company exists to raise your emotional temperature or something? Then he suddenly lowers his voice. Honestly, somehow scarier. Kwan, I'm not asking for something difficult. All right? I don't have the bandwidth to micromanage every tiny task right now. Just do it properly. Kwan quietly apologizes. But the manager is still frustrated. Don't just be good at saying sorry, be good at your job. Then he grabs his forehead like corporate life just reduced his lifespan by another 5 years. Might as well talk to a rock. All right. Just go back to work. Kwan walks out of the office completely depressed, then quietly mutters to himself, a rock? Bro got emotionally folded by middle management. Nearby, a female employee watches him sulking at his desk. This is Minji. And unlike most office workers, she still has enough humanity left to feel sympathy. She tells him not to take it too personally. The manager's just sensitive today. Then she gives him the most corporate advice imaginable. If every little comment stresses you out, you won't survive long at a company. Kwan immediately looks at her. Says the person who speaks her mind all the time? Minji shrugs. That's the manager's salary bonus, I guess. Then she explains what happened earlier that morning. Apparently, manager Kim got absolutely grilled by Mujin Shipping over some overseas freight issue. And right as she says that, bang! The office door suddenly flies open from a kick. Everybody freezes. A man storms inside screaming, "Where's Manager Kim?" And the narration finally introduces this walking anger management issue. Director Cha Woo-shik Jin of Mujin Shipping. Manager Kim instantly stands up in panic. "Oh, Director Cha, sir? What brings you here?" Director Cha looks at him with pure hostility. "What brings me my ass? I'm here to renegotiate the freight charges." Manager Kim nervously suggests sitting down to talk first, but Director Cha immediately shuts that down. "Enough! Bring me the contract." Kwan quietly asks Minji who this lunatic is. She explains that after President Cha collapsed, Director Cha basically took over everything at Mujin Shipping, and apparently, power went straight to his brain like cheap alcohol. In the distance, they watch Director Cha screaming at Manager Kim. Minji quietly says, "You have no idea how badly he throws his weight around." Then she adds something even worse. "The manager's taking the hit for all of us." Manager Kim desperately tries calming the situation. He explains they've already adjusted the freight rates 3 separate times this year alone. But Director Cha doesn't care. Meanwhile, Minji casually drops another horrifying detail. "I heard he recently started learning MMA," then pauses. "And now he hits people too. Bro, what kind of DLC update is this?" And immediately, thud, Director Cha suddenly stomps directly onto Manager Kim's foot. Manager Kim instantly grabs his leg in pain. Director Cha starts yelling that Mujin Shipping is losing money because exports are stalled. "If you don't adjust the freight rates now, we won't send the ships out at all." Manager Kim apologizes again. But Director Cha just keeps escalating. "If we don't get a proper answer by the end of this week, we're moving to another shipping company." That's final. The entire office goes dead silent. Minji quietly tells Kwon to pretend he didn't see anything. Honestly, peak office worker mentality. Ignore, survive, collect paycheck. Repeat. She even tells him finding another shipping company would help more than standing around watching this mess. But then, she suddenly notices something. Kwon is gone. She blinks in confusion. Huh? Kwon? Bro disappeared like a revenge protagonist hearing boss music. Meanwhile, Director Cha picks up a file from the desk. If you don't want us cutting ties. He raises the file like he's about to smack Manager Kim with it. You better start behaving from now on. But before the file can come down, someone grabs his wrist. It's Kwon. The entire room freezes instantly. Kwon calmly looks at him. These are important documents, they can't get mixed up with other things. Director Cha slowly turns toward him. And who the hell are you supposed to be? Kwon answers calmly. Mujin Shipping. Director Cha bursts out laughing. Mujin Shipping? Wow, this kid's interesting. Then he starts pushing Kwon's forehead back with his finger like he's disciplining a stray dog. Listen carefully, low-level employee. You're not even someone worth talking to. Then he smirks. Doesn't this company teach basics anymore? When meeting someone for the first time, bam, he suddenly kicks Kwon directly in the leg. You bow first. The impact forces Kwon down onto one knee. Director Cha looks down at him arrogantly. What are you staring at, idiot? And for the first time in a while, Kwon gets angry. Not annoyed, not tired, actually angry. The atmosphere instantly changes. But before things explode, Manager Kim quickly steps in. He apologizes to Director Cha and promises they'll reconsider the freight issue again. Kwon looks shocked. Manager Kim ignores the humiliation completely and politely sends Director Cha off safely. And after causing all that chaos, Director Cha just leaves, like an unpaid villain guest appearance. Next scene, nighttime. Kwon and Manager Kim are standing on the rooftop together. Manager Kim suddenly offers him a cigarette. Do you smoke? Kwon says he quit 10 years ago. Manager Kim immediately pauses. Aren't you 28? Yeah. Even he's confused by this man's backstory. Then the manager asks him something unexpected. Do you know why the company hired you? Kwon awkwardly says maybe because of his qualifications. The manager laughs immediately. Very funny. Then he absolutely destroys him with facts. The only qualifications you have are a GED and a motorcycle license. Corporate HR was truly gambling that day. Then Manager Kim becomes serious. Your eyes. He says when he first saw Kwon, he felt something genuine in them, like he actually wanted to accomplish something, not just survive until lunch break. Then the manager quietly gives him the most painful office worker speech imaginable. Society is full of people you can't reason with. And even when things are unfair, sometimes an office worker's fate is swallowing their pride and bowing their head. Because in the end, that's what protects the company. Then he pats Kwon's shoulder and tells him, if something like that happens again, pretend you didn't see it. And if you did see it, forget it. Kwon quietly calls out to him, Manager. But before he can continue, Manager Kim suddenly turns around with a small smile, and finally says what he truly felt. Honestly, putting the company aside, as a man, it's humiliating, getting your head kicked by some punk when you're older. That line hits Kwon straight in the soul. For a moment, the rooftop becomes completely silent. Then Manager Kim suddenly tries recovering his dignity. Oh, and by the way, I didn't fail to dodge. I let it hit me. Kwon immediately plays along. Yes, of course. Manager Kim proudly nods. I used to be pretty tough back in the day too. Sure, Grandpa. Let's get you back to payroll. Night falls. And somewhere else, yellow-haired biker guy is currently talking to Kwon on the phone like a loyal underling in a low-budget mafia movie. Yes, boss. I can tell you've been going to the gym consistently. Meanwhile, Kwon stands in front of a building. Black MMA. The biker asks if he should come too. Kwon tells him to go shower and sleep. The guy immediately responds with military-level loyalty. Call me anytime, boss. After hanging up, Kwon smiles. A genuinely terrifying smile. Then quietly thinks to himself, Manager, do you know who unreasonable people fear the most? Then his expression darkens completely. Someone even more unreasonable. Inside the gym, two fighters are sparring, and right in the middle of it, Director Cha is beating the absolute life out of some poor guy. The fighter desperately tries blocking while begging him to stop, but Director Cha keeps punching him. Hands up. If you're taking money, earn it. Boom. A brutal punch lands directly on the fighter's face. The guy literally flies backward and crashes onto the floor. Direct knockout. Two people rush over trying to help him. Meanwhile, Director Cha just laughs. Come on, I barely hit you a few times. Such a crybaby. From behind him, the gym owner finally snaps. Director Cha, are you seriously going to keep doing this? If you keep injuring my fighters every time you come here, I can't ignore it anymore. But Director Cha immediately switches tones. He reminds the owner how desperate he used to be when begging for financial help. Instant emotional blackmail combo. The owner immediately starts panicking. Director Cha casually hands him money. Go buy the boys dinner. Then smiles coldly. If you want relationships to last, people need to eat well. The gym owner stares at the money nervously. Director Cha waves it around mockingly. What? Want more? Wow, you've become a real hustler now. If you don't take it in 5 seconds, should I put it back? And right at that moment, Kwon walks into the gym, completely calm, then tells the owner, "I'd like to sign up for 1 month." The owner turns around politely, but Director Cha suddenly recognizes him. "Oh, it's you." Then he grins. "What's a tiny rat like you doing here?" Kwon loosens his tie, completely unfazed. "Can we start sparring right away?" And just like that, both of them are now standing inside the ring. Director Cha cracks his neck while ranting nonstop. This is the problem with people these days. Everybody thinks they suffer the most. He puts in his mouthguard. "You people know nothing about the stress leaders like me endure. Your lives are nothing." Then he stares at Kwon arrogantly. "So when some clueless punk tries climbing over me, it pisses me off. Especially a kid with no money, no connections, just scraps of pride left." Then he smirks. "What? Did you come here for Manager Kim's revenge?" Kwon stretches calmly and casually replies, "Man, you talk a lot." Then looks him dead in the eyes. "You don't have any friends, do you?" The entire gym goes silent. Director Cha instantly loses his mind. This bastard, he charges straight at Kwon. This time you're not walking away with just a kick. But, whoosh, Kwon dodges effortlessly, then calmly says, "You pay money to beat people up, so it feels like that power actually belongs to you." Director Cha freezes for a split second, then immediately attacks again, screaming, "I'll kill you." Kwon dodges again. "You're ignoring everything I say." Then smirks. "I guess I was right. You really don't have any friends." At this point, Director Cha is fighting for his life emotionally. Then finally, Kwon raises his fist. Director Cha laughs arrogantly. "You sure about this? If you throw that punch, you won't be able to keep working at the company anymore." But Kwon doesn't hesitate, not even for a second. Crack. His fist slams directly into Director Cha's jaw. The mouthguard flies out instantly. Everybody watching freezes, and Kwon slowly smiles. "If I were afraid of dying," then he steps forward again, "I wouldn't have come here in the first place." Kwon's fist rockets straight toward Director Choi's face. Everybody in the gym already preparing for a homicide charge. But at the very last second, he stops, right before impact. The entire gym freezes, and instead of punching him, Kwon casually flicks Choi directly on the forehead with one finger. Yeah, bro downgraded a deathmatch into school bullying. The humiliation is catastrophic. Then Kwon starts laughing. "Look at this punk. He's scared. Take a few more hits, and you might even piss yourself." Director Choi's face instantly turns red, not from damage, pure emotional destruction. Meanwhile, Kwon quietly thinks to himself that if he handles this recklessly, the company could suffer because of it. So instead, he decides to mentally torture this man until he destroys himself voluntarily. Corporate manipulation. Director Choi completely loses it. "You little son of a bitch." Kwon calmly watches him rage while thinking through his plan. He needs Choi to say it himself. A promise. A clear promise that no matter what happens, the company won't suffer losses because of this. And right as Kwon finalizes his plan, bam, Director Choi suddenly lands a brutal punch directly onto Kwon's face. Everybody inside the gym gasps, but then nothing happens. Kwon doesn't move, doesn't stumble, doesn't even blink. Bro absorbed that punch like unpaid overtime stress. He slowly looks back at Choi and calmly says, "You've been acting tough with your fists this whole time. But death doesn't scare us, little brats." That line only pisses Choi off even more. He starts attacking wildly while screaming that Kwon's too scared to actually do anything. But this time, smack. Kwon catches the punch barehanded, instantly. Then, while gripping Choi's fist tightly, he calmly says, "From now on, no matter what I do, you will never let the company suffer losses because of it." Director Choi smirks immediately. So that's what this was about. He laughs and says Kwon acted fearless, but apparently he still cares about the company after all, then confidently replies, "Fine, I promise." The moment those words leave his mouth, Director Choi suddenly jumps upward and grabs Kwon's arm. Instant armbar attempt. Go ahead and struggle all you want. His legs wrap tightly around Kwon's neck while twisting the arm violently. Everybody watching panics. Director Choi starts screaming that this time things won't end with a simple kick. He swears Kwon won't even be able to eat peacefully anymore. And honestly, flying armbar out of nowhere? Bro really bought the MMA DLC and immediately started abusing the controls. Kwon is fully trapped, one arm restrained, neck locked down. Director Choi trying to choke the life out of him. But even then, Kwon calmly says one thing. "You clearly promised. You said you wouldn't." And then, something horrifying happens. Crook. Kwon slowly starts bending his trapped arm using raw strength alone. Director Choi's eyes widen instantly. What the hell? Why is this bending? Bro finally realized he's grappling a demon wearing office clothes. The next second, boom! Kwon lifts him up with sheer force and slams him directly into the ground. The entire ring shakes. Lay a finger on the company. Thud! Director Choi's brain almost exits the chat permanently. Everybody in the gym stands there completely speechless. And through all of it, Kwon is still standing calmly. The gym owner immediately rushes toward Choi, screaming for someone to call an ambulance. Meanwhile, Kwon casually fixes his clothes and says one final message. When he wakes up, tell him this: a man should keep the word he spits out. The gym owner stares at him in disbelief and asks the obvious question. What the hell are you? Kwon looks confused for a second, then answers casually, I'm just an office worker. And while walking away, he repeats it one more time. A normal office worker. Sure, buddy. And sharks are just aggressive fish. Next scene, Kwan's apartment. Bandages are scattered everywhere while he wraps his injured shoulder. His whole body hurts. Even he admits he underestimated Director Choi. Not because Choi was some UFC champion, but because this psycho randomly went for a flying armbar like a YouTube tutorial came to life. If Kwan had lowered his guard even a little, things could have gone really bad. Right then, his phone suddenly starts ringing. Kwan checks the caller ID. Miss Minji? After answering, he asks why she's calling this early in the morning, but before he can finish, Minji immediately starts yelling, "Kwan, what the hell happened with Director Choi yesterday? What kind of trouble are you causing now?" Kwan looks genuinely confused. Then Minji quickly explains, Director Choi arrived at the office with a whole squad of men, and he's currently looking for Kwan. Even Kwan looks shocked hearing that. Minji hurriedly tells him, Manager Kim specifically ordered him not to come to work today. Stay home, rest, do not come here. But unfortunately, Kwan has the survival instincts of a brick. Next scene shifts to the office, and the atmosphere is completely ruined. Director Choi stands there covered in bandages looking like a failed mummy cosplay, while several thugs surround him. He stares directly at Manager Kim and demands a choice. Either bring Kwan in front of him, or double the freight rates. Manager Kim tries staying calm and asks why he even wants Kwan in the first place. Director Choi smirks. Apparently, he's willing to forgive everything that happened yesterday. Under one condition, Kwan has to kneel, bow his head, and apologize properly. If he does that, Choi promises to maintain the original contract terms. As he says this, he points toward the office entrance. Everybody turns and freezes. Kwan is standing there completely out of breath. Bro sprinted to work like he was late for a raid boss fight. Employees immediately start whispering among themselves. They genuinely can't understand why things escalated this badly when nobody involved is technically a gangster. Manager Kim protests immediately. How can Director Choi make demands this unreasonable? But before anything else, Kwan suddenly speaks. This is so childish. I can't watch this anymore. Even Manager Kim looks shocked. Kwan walks forward angrily and reminds Choi about the promise he made yesterday. Didn't he swear he wouldn't cause losses to the company? But Director Choi shamelessly smiles. He's just renegotiating contract terms for the company's benefit. Hearing that, Kwan bursts out laughing. Oh, did getting knocked out in one hit erase your memory? The office instantly explodes into whispers. One hit? They fought? And slowly, everybody starts looking at the bandages covering Choi's face. Suddenly, everything makes sense. Kwan walks closer and says a shock powerful enough to almost make somebody piss themselves could definitely cause temporary memory loss. Director Choi instantly screams, I didn't piss myself. Kwan immediately points at him. Oh, so you do remember. Then you're just changing your story like a little kid. Seriously, have some shame. Every sentence is pushing Choi closer to cardiac arrest. Manager Kim hurriedly asks Kwan what exactly happened, but before he can answer, Director Choi completely snaps again. He screams that unless Kwan kneels, unless he crawls between his legs, but before he can even finish, Kwan suddenly crouches down and crawls directly between his legs. The entire office freezes. Even Director Choi's brain temporarily disconnects. Then Kwan calmly behind him and says, everyone heard that, right? If I crawl between your legs, you'll honor the original contract. That's the promise. Then he calmly adds that he trusts Director Choi will actually keep his word this time. After all, for businessmen, credibility is life, right? Director Choi Seokjin? Director Choi's face twists violently. This son of a bitch. Before things explode, Manager Kim quickly grabs him trying to calm him down. But then, slap. The sound echoes across the office. Everybody goes silent. Director Choi just slapped Manager Kim across the face, then starts screaming at him asking if he has a death wish for touching him. And watching this, something inside Kwan changes. Inside his mind, Manager Kim's words replay. If you see something like that again, pretend you didn't. As a man, it's humiliating. Kwan slowly clenches his fist. There's a line you shouldn't cross, then stands up. A man's pride isn't something you get to trample. But suddenly, one of Choi's men grabs him by the shoulder. The thug angrily warns him to stay quiet while elders are talking. Kwan calmly grabs the man's arm back, then says something terrifyingly cold. From this moment onward, no matter what happens, keep your mouth shut. Because if you don't, you might leave with only one arm. The second Director Choi hears that, he completely loses control. That bastard, kill him first. Grind every last one of them into dust. Manager Kim and Minji panic watching the situation spiral completely out of control. Kwan turns toward the thugs ready to throw hands, but suddenly, a voice interrupts everything. Grind up? Who exactly are you planning to grind up? Everybody turns toward the entrance. And the moment Director Choi sees the person standing there, he suddenly smiles. Well, look who it is. Minji stares in shock. That's our director, Baeki Jin. The atmosphere changes instantly. Even the thugs stop moving. Director Choi sarcastically asks if this company has some tradition of sticking their nose into other people's business. Can't she see this as a conversation between people actually doing the work? But Yi Jin fires back immediately. This isn't a place for some puppet director like you to interfere. Oh, direct critical hit. She calmly admits President Choi did an incredible job growing the company. then removes her glasses, and coldly says, apparently he had no talent when it came to raising children. Director Choi instantly explodes. What did you just say? Ignoring him completely, Yi-jin hands him a file. She explains that out of respect for President Choi, she tolerated his behavior until now. But apparently, trash behavior doesn't skip generations. The moment Choi opens the file, his expression changes instantly. Inside are photos documenting every dirty thing he's done. Violence, illegal entertainment, power abuse, everything. Yi-jin calmly says he somehow managed to check every single box. Just like your face. Jesus Christ, she's violating this man professionally. Director Choi angrily asks if she's threatening him, but Yi-jin calmly reminds him, he's the one making threats here. Then she casually points out something suspicious. If shipping delays are hurting exports, Mujin Shipping should also be losing money. So why does Director Choi keep intentionally delaying departures? Almost like, not setting sail somehow makes him even more money. Hearing that, Director Choi smiles coldly. Now she's trying to frame them? Does she really think she's in a position to bluff? Then he asks directly, does this mean they no longer want to do business with Mujin Shipping? Yi-jin casually replies that people are free to interpret things however they want. And after hearing that, Director Choi glares at everyone one last time, then warns them they'll soon regret making emotional decisions. Before storming out with his men, then Yi-jin slowly turns toward Kwon. Well then, why don't we have a little talk ourselves? Next scene, Director Yi-jin's office. Inside are Yi-jin, Manager Kim, Minji, and Kwon. The atmosphere is painfully awkward. Finally, Yi-jin breaks the silence. She asks directly, after yesterday's incident, did Kwon really go find Director Choi and assault him? But Kwon immediately corrects her. Technically, it wasn't assault, it was a completely legal sparring match between two fighters participating in the same sport. And besides, Director Choi threw the first punch. That answer completely stuns everybody. Minji instantly starts yelling, what do you mean, sparring with Director Choi? Even Manager Kim looks horrified. So everything he said earlier was actually true? Ignoring the chaos, Yi-jin calmly continues. Because of Kwon's reckless actions, the export of 500 motorcycles has now been delayed. Storage fees, inventory financing, opportunity loss. Potential damages are approaching 1 billion won. Hearing that, Manager Kim immediately apologizes and takes responsibility for failing to control his subordinate. Meanwhile, Minji quietly thinks everything would have been easier if Kwon had just ignored the situation from the start. Why step in? Why make things worse? Watching both of them apologize because of him, Kwon genuinely feels guilty. Then Manager Kim's words echo in his head again. Sometimes an office worker's fate is swallowing their pride, because that's what protects the company. Kwon slowly clenches his fist, then suddenly says something unexpected. You don't lose money if you don't sell. Everybody looks confused. Even Yi-jin raises an eyebrow. Kwon explains he once heard it from a trader friend. After all, the motorcycles haven't actually been sold yet, which means the losses are only projected losses for now. Then, he suddenly starts talking seriously about the motorcycle export deal, and with complete confidence, he declares that he'll personally take responsibility and solve everything himself from start to finish. The room goes silent. And after hearing that, Director Baek Yi-jin smiles faintly. Kwon Sung-ho? Then she leans back slightly. He's even crazier than I thought. Next scene, Kwon, Minji, and Manager Kim finally step out of the office after surviving the corporate apocalypse. Everybody looks mentally exhausted, especially Minji. Bro looks like HR personally stole her soul. She lets out a deep sigh and reminds Kwon of something very important. So let me get this straight, you seriously said you'd handle all of this yourself? Meanwhile, for the first time in ages, Kwon actually looks nervous. And honestly, getting stared down by Minji and Manager Kim together somehow feels scarier than fighting gangsters. How did the three of us somehow become partners in crime? Kwon quietly points out the horrifying reality. They now have to move 500 motorbikes within 1 week. Even Minji starts doubting reality itself. She turns toward Manager Kim asking if he seriously thinks something this insane is even possible. But instead of panicking, Manager Kim suddenly smiles. To him, they're just motorbikes. After all, this is trading. Back in the day, he apparently sold hot tea in the middle of the blazing Middle East, which honestly sounds like either business genius or terrorism. Hearing that confidence, Kwon lowers his head apologetically. He admits things only became worse because of him, but Minji immediately shuts that down. According to her, what Kwon did yesterday was honestly cool. He actually did what everybody else only fantasized about during bathroom breaks. Kwon awkwardly scratches his head and laughs. Well, if there's one thing I do have, it's initiative. The second he smiles, Minji immediately hits him with a death glare. Laughing? You thought that was an actual compliment? Kwon instantly panics. No, that's not what I meant. Bro folded faster than cheap lawn furniture. Meanwhile, Manager Kim quietly watches the two arguing. Before suddenly becoming serious, he says neither of them should have gotten involved because of him. If they stayed out of it, maybe he alone would have taken the punishment. But Minji immediately disagrees. Apparently Manager Kim has no idea what kind of punishment that would have actually become. Honestly, she just couldn't keep watching anymore. At the same time, she remembers Director Yi-jin's earlier words. I'm impressed by all this confidence. So let's do this together. We'll call it the Samjin Task Force. The moment Minji remembers that ridiculous teen name, she physically cringes. Yeah, that sounds exactly like a low-budget Power Rangers spin-off funded by unpaid interns. But because of all this chaos, the three of them somehow officially became a team. Then suddenly, Manager Kim notices the regret on Minji's face. After that, he quietly turns toward Kwon. Thanks, Kwon. Both Kwon and Minji looked genuinely shocked. Manager Kim calmly admits it's been a very long time since someone stepped up for him like that. And honestly, out of everybody, he never expected it to be Kwon. Hearing those words makes Minji feel a little guilty herself. Because unlike Kwon, she couldn't step forward back then. Then Manager Kim smiles awkwardly and admits something even more shocking. When he heard Kwon beat up Director Choi, he actually felt satisfied inside. Sure, it was reckless, possibly career-ending, potentially prison-certified behavior, but still, he felt grateful. In fact, if he knew things would escalate this badly anyway, he says he might have punched Choi himself. Even Minji looks stunned. Manager. But then Manager Kim casually asks the most important question in human history. So Kwon, Director Choi really didn't piss himself, right? Minji instantly looks spiritually exhausted. Manager, not you too. Meanwhile, Kwon casually replies, next time I'll make sure he actually does. Honestly, these two together are one workplace harassment lawsuit away from disaster. The scene slowly shifts into nighttime. Director Yi Jin stands alone near the office windows, looking outside at the city lights. Quietly, she says she's curious. Curious how a man once called the Legend plans to solve all this. At the same time, Kwon's file rests on her desk, and beside it, there's a mysterious photograph. Something about it immediately feels important. Next morning, back at the office, Minji is desperately calling company after company trying to find a solution, but every single call ends the same way. Rejected, fully booked, no shipping routes available. The second she hangs up another call, exhaustion instantly hits her face. Apparently every shipping schedule is packed for the next 6 months, but not this bad. Minji suddenly notices Kwon's desk is empty. That immediately annoys her even more. For the first time in her life, she genuinely feels like they can't even take the first step towards solving this disaster. Meanwhile, Manager Kim wonders where Kwon disappeared to after causing all this chaos. Then he reveals something. Kwon called earlier, claiming he found a completely new method to move the motorbikes. Apparently, he had somewhere important to visit first. A new way? Minji looks confused. Next scene, some shady industrial area straight out of a crime documentary. A man laughs loudly, saying he never expected to hear from them again so soon. Apparently, he's moved to tears. And standing there is Kwon, alongside yellow-haired biker guy. Yellowhair proudly explains that out of everyone he knows, Kwon is apparently the only rich lunatic obsessed with motorcycles. Then, misunderstanding the situation completely, he excitedly asks if this officially means he's now the right-hand man of legendary Kwon Seung-ho. Kwon instantly kills that fantasy. Stop desperately searching for validation and live your own life. Damn. Bro just gave him emotional damage for free. Then Kwon calmly explains he never considered him an underling in the first place. He called him because he actually needed him. Hearing that, Yellowhair gets confused. Needed him? Kwon coldly explains. If he turns out useless, he'll discard him immediately. But somehow, that only makes Yellowhair even happier. In his head, he just upgraded himself from random minion to trusted associate. Introducing himself as Han Byung-ji, he proudly swears loyalty to supporting his boss from now on. This dude's imagination is running faster than Wi-Fi in Korea. While talking, they eventually arrive at some abandoned garage-looking place. The entire location screams, "Police raid pending." Kwon nervously looks around, asking if they're seriously buying motorcycles in a dump like this. Han reassures him the address is correct. Apparently these people buy literally anything in bulk. The moment they walk inside, the atmosphere instantly becomes dangerous. The place is packed with rough-looking workers who genuinely look like they've committed tax fraud in at least 3 countries. Some guys are pouring mysterious liquid into giant barrels. Honestly, it looks less like a business and more like they're hiding ex-girlfriends in acid tanks. Everybody stares at Kwon and Han with hostile eyes. Then, the scene reveals the boss, a guy casually eating noodles and curry like some low-budget mafia kingpin. He tells them not to be shy and just say what they're trying to sell. Kwon quietly whispers to Han, asking who these people even are, because they honestly look wanted by Interpol. Han awkwardly admits even he doesn't know the details. Apparently some used car dealers introduced him to these people. All he knows is they're a buying operation. The second Kwon hears that phrase, his anxiety spikes instantly. Then he quietly asks the obvious question. If these people buy the bikes, who exactly are they selling them to? Han casually replies, probably undocumented workers or underage kids. Apparently tons of people chasing the Korean dream need bikes with no questions asked. He even mentions those teenagers constantly driving motorcycles without license plates. The moment Kwon hears that, he starts sweating immediately. You crazy idiot? Why are you only telling me this now? Before they can continue, the boss interrupts, asking what's so funny. Apparently it sounds interesting. Han quickly changes the subject and moves the deal forward. The second he mentions they want to sell 500 motorbikes, everybody inside suddenly looks at them. The boss immediately bursts into laughter. Apparently they'll gladly buy everything. Business gets even better whenever the economy gets worse. Because young people these days apparently hate responsibility. Then laughing like a complete maniac, he says everybody eventually needs a responsibility-free place to run toward. And if they ever need one, he'll even provide it cheaply. Han instantly panics. No thanks, I already take supplements. Bro thought the old man was inviting him somewhere very different. But before he can continue, Kwon suddenly stands up. We're leaving. Everybody looks confused. Then Kwon calmly says they're not selling the bikes anymore. Han almost chokes. What are you talking about? Wasn't this our whole plan? But Kwon firmly replies there's no way they can knowingly sell motorcycles that'll end up helping crimes later. Samjin Trading isn't some subcontractor for criminal organizations. The second the word crime appears, the boss's expression changes completely, but Kwon keeps talking anyway. Fearless. Cold, he refuses to let Samjin Trading get insulted like that. Han desperately pulls him aside, begging him to reconsider. After all the effort he spent setting this up, Kwon is backing out now? And honestly, even overseas exports might eventually end up being used for illegal stuff too. Han begs him to think carefully because if this deal collapses, they're completely out of options. But before Kwon can answer, the boss interrupts again. That's business. Deals fall apart. Then the atmosphere suddenly darkens. Haven't you heard? Time is money. The entire room changes instantly. The boss asks how they plan to compensate him for wasting his precious time. Then, while calling them little gold nuggets, he orders his men to get ready. Seeing the mood becoming dangerous, Kwon calmly suggests they just call things even and separate peacefully. Who knows, maybe they'll make better deals together someday. But unfortunately, the boss's men are already surrounding them. Kwon quietly realizes things are about to get ugly, but suddenly Han dramatically steps forward. Leave this to your brother number one. I'll educate them in their own language. Then he points toward Kwon and starts screaming like a hype man at a wrestling event. You idiots even know who my boss is? Let me tell you about legendary Kwon Sung-ho, the man who single-handedly crushed the National United Alliance. But before he can continue, a voice suddenly echoes from behind. Why isn't this scooter starting? Come on already. Han freezes. Slowly turning around, he realizes Kwon somehow sneaked outside and is currently trying to start the scooter near the gate. Han looks absolutely betrayed. What the hell are you doing? From outside, Kwon calmly reminds him that he's still an office worker. And technically, it's still working hours. He came here to sell goods, not catch assault charges like Pokemon cards. If Han doesn't hurry, he's leaving without him. The moment Kwon says that, Han's soul almost leaves his body because the gangsters are already charging toward him. The boss immediately screams, "Kill them!" Han instantly starts running for his life. I'm coming too. While escaping, Han suddenly asks the important question. If they're not selling the bikes, then what exactly are they supposed to do now? Without hesitation, Kwon answers, ride them. Suddenly, Kwon stops running, then calmly turns around and starts walking back toward the gangsters. Even Han gets shocked. Meanwhile, the boss's men rush him with pipes, fists, and weapons. But none of it matters. Kwon effortlessly dodges every attack while casually walking forward. The boss arrogantly places his hand on one of the motorcycles they brought earlier, then smirks, saying brokers should never abandon the merchandise. But instantly, Kwon's voice interrupts him. Don't touch it. The boss barely turns around before BAM! Kwon launches a brutal flying kick directly into his face. You'll dirty it. The boss gets sent flying backwards. Everybody freezes. Even Han looks traumatized. Then Kwon notices fingerprints left on the motorcycle. While calmly wiping it clean, he casually says they'll call things even because of that one dirty touch. Bro values motorcycle hygiene more than human life. Next scene, Han drives the bike while Kwon sits behind him. Kwon casually points out that Han definitely tried abandoning him earlier and escaping alone. Han instantly denies everything. Apparently, he's a man who lives and dies by loyalty. Sure, buddy, your survival instincts were louder than your engine. Eventually, Kwon asks the important question. What exactly are they going to do with the bikes now? Han awkwardly admits maybe they should have just sold them after all. The second he says that, Kwon instantly regrets bringing him. But then Han suddenly laughs and admits he was joking. Apparently, he even skipped work because he thought he'd get a small cut from the deal. Right then, a delivery rider zooms past them at insane speed. Both of them look surprised. Han stares at the endless delivery bikes on the road and quietly says, all of those are money. Then suddenly, he asks Kwon for permission to go back to work. Finally, Kwon asks what Han actually does for a living since he somehow earns absurd amounts of money. Han casually answers, deliveries. Kwon gets genuinely shocked. What kind of deliveries pay that much? Han respectfully tells him the harsh truth. With his abilities, he could easily make over 10 million won per month doing deliveries. The second Kwon hears that number, even he gets stunned. 10 million? Bro spent years destroying gangs just to discover food delivery was the real final boss. Next scene? Back at Samjin Trading, manager Kim and Minji are still desperately searching for solutions, while director Yi Jin quietly listens nearby. Manager Kim explains they're exhausting every possible option, but nothing's working. The The domestic market is already oversaturated, and overseas shipping routes are booked almost an entire year ahead. Manager Kim even admits transporting the bikes themselves might honestly be more realistic at this point. Minji suggests maybe they should negotiate with Director Choi again somehow. But before the conversation continues, the office door suddenly opens. We're back. Kwon casually walks in and sits at his desk. The second Minji sees his expression, she immediately realizes things probably went horribly wrong. Honestly, there's only so much progress you can make by beating up payment directors. Then Yi-jin directly asks him, is there really no other solution left? The office goes silent. But then, Kwon calmly answers, how about we use them? Everybody looks confused. Instead of selling the motorcycles, they should use the bikes themselves. At the same time, Kwon remembers Han excitedly talking about the delivery industry. Apparently, the yearly revenue of the delivery market exceeds 4 trillion won. Even delivery agencies alone generate around 1.5 trillion yearly. That's comparable to companies like Naver Webtoon. And nearly half of Korea's delivery agencies are concentrated around Seoul and Incheon alone. During peak hours, there are literally more delivery bikes than actual cars on the road. Holding his helmet confidently, Kwon finally declares, we won't just make 1 billion won. We'll make over 10 billion. Manager Kim immediately warns him that launching a completely new business overnight isn't something normal people do. Minji also criticizes the idea. This isn't some children's game. Can this even be called a plan? He explains he's not playing around. He already studied overseas business trends. He even met people capable of handling operations. Then he reminds Yi-jin of something important. She was the one who told them to do their best until the very end. And with a confident smile, Kwon finally says, we're only getting started. Next scene, Director Yi-jin stands alone near the office window deep in thought. The city lights reflect in her glasses while her brain starts doing corporate detective work. Quietly, she thinks to herself, even putting Choi Sok-jin's violent personality aside, he's still a businessman who calculates profit and loss down to the very last one. So why is he trying to make enemies out of us, even at a loss to himself? Then she remembers something important. Ever since President Choi collapsed, the president's seat at Mujin Shipping has remained empty, and for someone like Choi Sok-jin to properly cement himself as successor, he needs results. The kind that make old shareholders start moistening their pants respectfully. Which means somebody probably promised him something even bigger in exchange for sabotaging Samjin trading. And there's only one type of person capable of offering a deal like that. Someone inside the company. Someone powerful. Someone who desperately wants to see Baek Yi-jin fail. Meanwhile, the scene suddenly shifts. A man is talking quietly on the phone. From the other side, someone asks coldly, is everything proceeding smoothly? The madam is becoming displeased with how long this is taking. The man calmly replies, don't worry. You'll hear the news she wants very soon. Then he smirks slightly. A dam that can't stop even a small leak has no reason to exist. Back with Yi-jin, her eyes narrow seriously. No matter what happens, this project has to succeed. Next scene, Kwon stares at somebody standing in front of him. And you are? Of course, it's yellow hair biker guy, the professional unemployed loyalist himself. He immediately straightens his posture proudly. I am freelance consultant, Han Byung-gi. Then he pauses dramatically. My English name is Han Crime. Bro gave himself a DLC villain name. Yeah, nah. From now on, we're absolutely calling him Han. Kwon looks at him quietly. Right, Han? It hasn't been long, but after talking to you, I realized something. You're actually more useful than I thought. And that usefulness could help our company. The moment Han hears that, his eyes practically start sparkling. I'm useful to you, boss? Kwon places a hand on his shoulder. Come to the company tomorrow. As a delivery business consultant, and wear proper clothes, so nobody looks down on you. Han instantly salutes. Yes, sir, boss. Next scene. Samjin Trading Company. Employees suddenly start staring toward the hallway in complete disbelief. Somebody is approaching, and judging from everyone's expressions, it looks less like a consultant arriving and more like the final boss of Loan Shark Season 3. Inside the meeting room, Kwon, Minji, Manager Kim, and Yi-jin are waiting. Kwon confidently says they're all gonna be surprised when they see him. Minji immediately gets nervous. Aren't you hyping this up too much? Manager Kim calmly says they'll find out soon enough whether it's hype or disappointment. Kwon confidently grins. You won't be disappointed. Yi-jin asks when exactly this mysterious consultant is arriving. And right then, knock knock. Kwon smiles. Sounds like he's here. Then confidently walks to the door. Without further delay, let me introduce our delivery business consultant, Han Young-gi. He opens the door and instantly freezes. Everybody else does too. Han showed up dressed like a full-blown Yakuza extra. Black suit, gold chain, aggressive hairstyle. The kind of fit that screams, I collect debt and occasionally kidneys. Kwon's soul almost leaves his body. Manager Kim looks ready to fake a medical emergency. Meanwhile, Han proudly bows. Nice to meet you. I'm delivery specialized consultant Han Byung-gi. Then proudly corrects himself. No, Mr. Han Crime. I look forward to working with you. Bro really said it out loud. Immediately, Kwon grabs Han by the collar. Why the hell are you dressed like a Yakuza? I told you to wear something normal. Han looks genuinely confused. You said to wear something people wouldn't look down on. Kwon starts losing his mind. Idiot. That's not what I mean. But before things escalate, a cold voice interrupts them. Kwan. Everybody freezes. Director Yi Jin. She slowly looks toward Han. Who exactly is that? Even Kwan starts panicking now. He's the consultant I mentioned. Next scene, Han stands awkwardly outside the meeting room while everybody inside absolutely flames Kwan alive. Yi Jin rubs her forehead. You said consultant, not loan shark. Manager Kim looks devastated. How could you bring somebody like that into a project our entire future depends on? Kwan desperately tries defending himself. His outfit aside, he really is a professional. At least hear him out first. But Manager Kim looks genuinely disappointed. Minji joins in immediately. I'm already drowning in work and now you're creating even more problems. Meanwhile, Yi Jin silently holds her head in pain. Honestly, this woman's stress levels are reaching divorced CEO territory. But then, she suddenly speaks. Let him in. Everybody looks shocked. Yi Jin calmly explains it would be rude leaving a guest outside. Besides, Kwan recommended him. There must be a reason. Then she asks everyone to prepare meeting materials for their guest. The entire room goes silent. Yeah, she's definitely the smartest person here. Next scene, everybody sits inside the meeting room together. Han awkwardly sits there trying very hard not to look like somebody who illegally imports tiger organs. Yi Jin politely asks if she can simply call him Mr. Han Byung-gi. Han immediately nods. Then the meeting officially begins. Minji starts explaining the business structure, delivery agency costs, regional demand, competitor analysis, revenue models, lease systems. Apparently using Samjin's existing motorcycles for leasing would be ideal. And because delivery riding has low entry barriers, recruitment shouldn't be difficult. But suddenly, Han interrupts her. That part will be difficult. Everybody pauses. Minji calmly asks what he means. Han starts explaining. One of his friends barely finishes 2 deliveries per hour. Meanwhile, another single father somehow completes 7 in the same time. In delivery work, mindset changes everything. Finding actual professional riders instead of irresponsible part-timers is incredibly hard. Sure, the entry barrier is low, but that also means the streets are filled with lunatics. People running red lights, fighting customers, stealing food deliveries when hungry. Honestly, delivery riders out here treating traffic laws like optional side quests. Han explains that when accidents happen, both the riders and agencies usually just shrug and say, "Sue me if you want." Apparently, that's basically industry culture. And now, a delivery agency operating under the Samjin name wants to manage all those unpredictable people? The entire team quietly listens carefully. Meanwhile, the scene suddenly shifts again. A man raises a glass while speaking smoothly. Mutual benefit. One heart. Moving forward together. Apparently he thinks that phrase perfectly describes their current relationship. This man is Samjin Trading Director Han Jae-myung, and sitting across from him, Director Choi. Director Han asks if Choi agrees. Choi casually sips his drink. There's no need for hearts to align. People these days hate cheesy nonsense. Then he smirks slightly. Besides, it feels uncomfortable meddling in somebody else's family feud, which is absolutely referring to the earlier office incident. Director Han smiles. Still, your little performance was impressive. I didn't think you'd personally step in. Choi shrugs. Call it curiosity. In any case, I moved exactly as promised. Director Han calmly explains they'll cover all losses from the delayed shipments, and Samjin Trading's sales team will receive executive rights over logistics contracts this year. Choi smirks. You'll still get those contracts even if Baek Yi Jin ends up hanging off a cliff like a stray duck. She's still a Baek, part of the royal family. Director Han laughs quietly. Director Choi, do you know how many Baeks there are at Samjin? I'm just someone who works for the company. That's all. This company values performance for the future, not blood from the past. Then both men clink glasses together. Director Han smiles. With this choice, Mujin Shipping's balance will completely tip toward your side. But Choi shakes his head. Not yet. Not unless you keep helping me. Director Han suddenly remembers something amusing. Apparently, Baek Yi Jin created a task force trying to turn the stuck motorcycle inventory into a delivery business. And apparently, Mujin Shipping was interested in the delivery market too. Hearing that, Choi goes silent for a moment, then bursts into laughter. Just having motorcycles means nothing. Scene shifts back. Han Crime is currently writing things on the board while explaining seriously. From the outside, delivery business looks simple, but once you peel back the surface, there's no bigger madhouse. At the same time, Choi's voice overlaps from the previous scene. It's a complete circus, a place where people who casually break laws control the streets. Han continues explaining. Rival agencies, territory wars, harassment toward newcomers. Apparently bullying new companies is basically tradition. Meanwhile, Choi mocks the situation further. You think gathering proper riders will be easy? They're already hiring minors and unlicensed idiots just to survive. And even if they somehow gather people, you think Baek Yi Jin can control them? This isn't a business for office workers in suits. Han Crime says almost the exact same thing to the team. In this industry, you survive by fighting through chaos directly on the streets. And surprisingly, Yi Jin listens to every single word carefully. Then Han calmly says, one final thing. He can do it, if it's Kwan. Next scene, outdoors. A massive crowd gathers together. Some people are already complaining impatiently. If you called us here, hurry up already. Another guy says he only showed up because he lost all his money gambling on sports last night. Average financially responsible citizen. Standing in front of the crowd, Kwon and Han. Han nervously asks when they're starting. Apparently he spent the entire night calling literally everyone he knew. Flashback. Previous night. Kwon grabbed Han's shoulder and told him to gather as many people as possible by tomorrow. Friends, strangers, didn't matter. Anybody willing to work. Han looked shocked because it was already late at night. But then, Kwon called him my right-hand man. The second Han heard that, bro evolved emotionally. He immediately saluted and promised to gather even his aunt's cousin's 8th cousin if necessary. Back to present. Kwon grabs a speaker and starts shouting loudly. All right, listen up. First of all, thanks for showing up this early. Immediately, a bald guy in the crowd screams the only thing anybody actually cares about. Forget that. Is it true we get free bikes if we work deliveries here? Kwon smiles. It's true. Anyone hired as a Samjin rider receives a motorcycle with absolutely zero lease fees. The crowd instantly explodes. For riders, lease payments are the biggest burden. So hearing free bike basically sounds sexier than lingerie ads to these people. Everybody immediately starts whispering excitedly, but someone suddenly raises a concern. What if people just run away with the bikes? Kwon immediately raises his voice again. Since the bikes are free, there are only 2 conditions. First, legal rider registration. Second, you must pass a very difficult interview. Everybody looks confused, and the moment they ask what kind of interview it is, Kwon calmly walks toward a table, then sits down, rolls up his sleeve, places his elbow down, and says, arm wrestling. The moment Kwon announces that the interview method is arm wrestling, the entire crowd instantly loses its mind. Everybody starts shouting over each other. Arm wrestling? So if we win, the bike is free? Then suddenly, absolute chaos. People start charging toward the table like it's Black Friday at a bankruptcy sale. I'm first. Move. No, I got here first. Honestly, these dudes were fighting harder for free motorcycles than some fathers fight for child custody. Meanwhile, off in the distance, via room, a motorcycle slowly pulls up nearby. The rider removes his helmet, and immediately, the atmosphere changes. The guy is massive, covered in tattoos from neck to wrist. Bro looked like prison released him on parole, specifically for violence. He stares toward the crowd and scoffs. What's this free lease bullshit? What kind of circus is this? Then cracks his neck. Perfect timing. I was just thinking it's about time I disciplined some riders again. Then he smirks coldly. Anyway, let's see which idiot is dumb enough to pull this stunt in my territory. I want to see his face. Meanwhile, Han is desperately trying to organize the crowd. All right, don't push. One line. One by one. Then suddenly, he notices the giant tattooed rider walking straight through the line. Han immediately points toward the back. Big guy, no cutting. Back of the line. But the giant completely ignores him and keeps walking forward. Han nervously repeats himself. Hey, I said line up. Then the guy suddenly stops right in front of him. Han instantly starts sweating. Bro's survival instincts activated immediately. And before Han can react, thud. The giant casually shoves him aside. Meanwhile, Kwon doesn't even react. Honestly, bro probably looked at that and thought, yeah, Tuesday. Then Kwon calmly asks Han, what are you doing? Han panics instantly. Boss. But before he can explain, the giant steps directly in front of Kwon. And finally, his face gets revealed properly. Absolute nightmare fuel. The guy glares at Kwon and growls, so it's you, the little bastard causing this circus. Kwon calmly looks at him. Here for the interview? The tattooed guy laughs. You've got nerve. People wonder why comedy shows are dying. Meanwhile, the crowd starts whispering nervously. Shit, that's Hwang. What the hell is Hei doing here? I skipped a Yacha delivery call for this? That crazy bull Hwang actually showed up. Yeah, apparently this dude is famous, and not in a healthy way. Suddenly, Hwang grabs Kwon by the shirt and lifts him up effortlessly. Suit boy, you really think you can steal my riders with some clown show like this? You have no idea how this industry works. Then he smirks. Want me to help with the interview? But instead of panicking, Kwon smiles calmly. I know exactly who you are, Mr. Hwang. That instantly catches Hwang off guard. Then Kwon starts casually listing his entire criminal resume like he's reading Wikipedia. 24 years old, former captain of the Syrian team, permanently banned after violently assaulting a junior involved in sports betting, put him out for 18 weeks, and now manager of Yacha delivery agency. The crowd instantly goes quiet. Hearing someone know that much about him, even Hwang starts smiling. Not bad. You did your homework. Then his tone becomes serious. If you know all that, then stop this stupid act and disappear. Unless you want your head planted into the pavement. Meanwhile in the back, Han is internally dying from stress. Boss, are you really sure about this? Flashback. The previous day, Han was desperately warning Kwon. You can't mess with Hwang. But Kwon calmly asked, you said he's the most influential guy around here, right? Han immediately shouted, that's exactly why you can't. That crazy bull doesn't care about rank or age. But instead of getting worried, Kwon smiled. Oh, then we definitely need him. Then he placed a hand on Han's shoulder. My wannabe right-hand man, if there's one thing that never changes no matter how much the world changes, what do you think it is? Back to present, Quan suddenly looks at Huang and says, if you're that confident, how about we make a little bet? Arm wrestling. Huang looks confused. Meanwhile, Quan calmly prepares the chairs. If you win, we'll lend every motorcycle we own to your agency for free. The crowd instantly explodes. Free. Bro, half the riders almost orgasmed hearing that deal. But then Quan continues, if I win, you become a rider for Samjin Trading. Then he smirks slightly. Of course, if you're scared, we don't have to. Yeah, that sentence hit Huang's ego harder than taxes. You little shit. He immediately sits down preparing himself. Suit-wearing bastard. You better keep your word. Otherwise, things are gonna get ugly. Quan calmly sits across from him. Why wouldn't I? A verbal contract is still a contract. Next scene, the arm wrestling match begins, and immediately, Huang starts using his full strength. Veins bulging, muscles shaking, face turning red. Meanwhile, Quan is literally yawning. Bro looks more bored than a husband in IKEA. Huang's eyes slowly widen. What the hell is this guy? Then suddenly, the narration notices something incredibly important. Huang's underwear waistband. Calvin Klein. Yeah, nah, this man might be a violent psychopath, but at least his balls are sponsored professionally. Meanwhile, Huang keeps pushing with everything he has. I can't even move him. I've never lost a pure strength match before. If I lose here, even accidentally, Quan calmly speaks while barely applying force. You'd become a laughingstock. Especially if rumors spread that some clean-cut office worker beat you in front of everybody, the crowd keeps whispering. They've been stuck like that for 5 minutes. Huang's probably just playing with him. Meanwhile, Quan quietly says, let's wrap this up. There are still lots of people waiting. Huang grits his teeth. Just a second. But then, Quan finally applies a little pressure. And instantly, Huang's arm starts dropping. Everybody watching freezes. The giant tattooed monster is actually losing. But right before his hand touches the table, it suddenly stops. Huang looks completely shaken. Because for the first time, he truly feels Quan's strength. That expression says everything. If rumors spread you lost to some office worker, the pride and authority you built through brute force would start collapsing. Huang immediately shouts back, bullshit, it's just arm wrestling. I don't need to keep some stupid promise. But Quan immediately interrupts him. Hey Huang, I told you already. A verbal contract is still a contract. Then slowly, he starts pressing harder again. What happens when someone breaks a contract? Then he smiles. Those office workers you look down on so much, 1 out of 100, was the strongest in their class, 1 out of 1,000, ruled the entire school. Then his smile becomes genuinely terrifying. And 1 out of 100,000, what kind of person do you think they become? The pressure increases again. Kirk. Huang starts panicking. Go ahead, break your word if you want, then get slammed into the ground every night. Yeah, nah, that sentence sounded criminally inappropriate without context. Even Huang starts sweating now. What? What do I have to do? The moment he says that, Quan smiles. Simple. And then, he suddenly loosens his strength. Slam! Huang wins. Everybody instantly erupts cheering. But Huang himself looks completely confused. He let me win? Is that true, Mr. Huang? I know making that decision must have been difficult. Thank you. Huang slowly looks upward. And finally sees Quan's face properly. Absolute demon smile. Bro looked less like a businessman and more like Satan cosplaying an office worker. Then Quan grabs Huang's hand and raises it high into the air like a champion. Regardless of the outcome, the fact you chose Samjin Trading means I hope you devote yourself fully to your work. With your life on the line? Then he quietly whispers. If you understand what I mean, smile. It's a good day, right? Huang immediately starts panicking internally. Shit, I think I got caught by a real lunatic. Meanwhile, the crowd completely misunderstands the situation. Seeing Huang join Samjin Trading, everybody suddenly wants in too. The sign-up area instantly explodes. And just like that, Quan successfully recruits one of the strongest riders in the district through psychological terrorism. Next scene, storage warehouse. Manager Kim and Minji are checking the motorcycle inventory. Minji suddenly rushes inside excitedly. Manager! Quan actually pulled it off. He recruited riders. Manager Kim looks genuinely shocked. Seriously? Then he slowly turns toward Minji. I hope things really went smoothly. Minji nods. She was worried too, but thankfully nothing major happened. And right then, another employee walks over carrying documents. He hands Manager Kim a file. I confirmed the motorcycle count. All units arrived successfully. Manager Kim smiles. Thanks, Team Leader Choi. And yes, this is a different Choi. Because apparently Korea only has like 6 last names and this manhwa keeps recycling them like NPC templates. Then, Team Leader Choi starts showing them around the warehouse. Manager Kim admits he had no idea where they'd even store all these bikes. But thanks to Team Leader Choi, that burden got lifted. The team leader smiles kindly. We help each other when times get hard, right? Then he mentions Sales Team 1 will receive insulation panels next month. So as long as the warehouse gets cleared before then, there's no problem. Manager Kim smiles gratefully. It's tight, but we should still be thankful. Then Team Leader Choi leaves after telling them to keep working hard. Minji quietly watches him leave, then suddenly asks, Manager, Are we really going to be okay? She looks around at the endless motorcycles. Honestly, even 1 month feels impossibly short. Starting a new business normally takes months of preparation, research, data, market studies, but this entire project got rushed together so quickly, which only proves how desperate the situation really is. Manager Kim quietly removes his glasses. Director Yi Jin's position was already unstable, and after losing the Mujin shipping contract, things became much worse. Then while cleaning his glasses, he says the executive performance review is approaching soon too. If this project fails, if Director Yi Jin can't show clear results, she'll have no way to convince the board. And if there's no outcome this time either, Director Baek Yi Jin will be in serious danger. At the same moment, the scene shifts toward Yi Jin standing inside an elevator. The doors slowly begin closing, but suddenly, a hand stops them. The doors reopen, and standing there is Director Han, wearing that same shady snake smile. Well, look who it is, our dear Director Baek Yi Jin. Yi Jin calmly greets him. Long time no see, Director Han. Both of them stand inside the elevator together. Director Han mentions hearing about Sales Team 3's new delivery project. Apparently they're trying to transform the failed export motorcycles into a business. Then he smiles. If it's Director Yi Jin, I'm sure things will go well. Yi Jin smiles politely. No matter how hard I try, I could never compare to Sales Team 1, especially Manager Park. They say he resembles you perfectly. Ruthless, efficient. As long as the results are good, the process doesn't matter, right? And you always deliver results. Director Han quietly smiles hearing that. Then Yi Jin casually drops another line while leaving. Your evaluation this year must already be secured. Me? If I mess up at the front line, I'll probably self-destruct eventually anyway. Then she glances back at him calmly. But honestly, seeing someone your age live this fiercely is inspiring. You're motivating me too. Then she leaves, and for a moment, Director Han's smile slightly stiffens. Next scene, restaurant. Manager Park sits together with Director Han. Apparently he investigated Yi Jin's project just like ordered. According to him, they're struggling badly with storage already. Sure, they found temporary warehouse space, but once their own insulation panels arrive next month, Samjin's bikes will have nowhere to go. Then while serving food, Manager Park confidently says even Chairman Baek himself couldn't launch a new business in 1 month. So there's no way Yi Jin can succeed. Director Han calmly laughs. We don't need to do anything. She'll crash and burn herself. Then he smiles warmly toward Manager Park. I really was blessed with people. I mean, I have someone like you working under me. Manager Park instantly looks happy hearing praise from Daddy Corporate. But suddenly, Director Han asks a strange question. Do you know why I keep you around? Manager Park looks confused. Director Han smiles calmly. Because you're like a pufferfish. Delicious. But poisonous inside? Then his expression changes slightly. But these days, you feel more like pufferfish soup after all the poison's removed. Tasty, but harmless. Damn. Bro insulted this man professionally and spiritually in 1 sentence. Manager Park immediately apologizes and says he'll correct himself. But before he can continue, Director Han suddenly asks something else. Those insulation panels arriving next month? Is there really any reason to wait that long? Then he calmly takes another bite of food. I think it'd be best if the goods arrived as soon as possible. And just like that, the story quietly reveals something terrifying. Director Han isn't planning to wait for Yi Jin's project to fail naturally. He's about to speedrun the sabotage personally.